My name is LeRoi Johnson, and I'm from Buffalo, New York. I grew up in both the Willow Park and the Perry projects. Although we lived in the project, we were relatively well off in spirit, and we didn't have a need for much. We had clothing and the rest, and we had a great family life. We grew up in an era, in a time when it was there was a lot of discrimination. We lived first in the Willow Park were a black projects, and then we moved over to a white projects where the overwhelming majority were white. So we experienced all different types of discrimination and fights, a lot of different things. It was a growth experience, but also a learning experience to learn what you were going to experience once you got a little older. From there, I was fortunate enough to have an unfortunate thing happen to me, which was I was involved in an auto accident when I was young. And that debilitated me for a number of years, 4 years. So I had a tutor, and that tutor gave me a lot of insight and gave me a lot of a chance to reflect on a lot of different things and to really strengthen my educational tools. It also strengthened me as a person because, I learned how to look from within, spending a lot of time on my own. I developed some of my talents in terms of art and watched a lot of TV, which helped with my direction in terms of becoming a lawyer, which was one of the facets that helped. But as a young person, I started off going to Catholic schools. I went to St. Bridget's and St. Anne's. And of course, those schools were very strict, but that was a good thing because I looked at it in terms of being disciplined. My mother helped me through my trying times, and of course, my brothers and sisters were all there. And a few friends would come in here and there, but I was bedridden. So, anybody who came for any amount of time was a blessing to me. I did enjoy looking at TV, but I also enjoyed reading the encyclopedia from one side to the other. In third grade, I had that tutor, and that tutor took me to seventh grade. And then I moved over from seventh grade. Instead of going to a Catholic school, I went to a public school for the first time. And I found that my experience with the tutor really put me way above most of the students. I think that individual learning was a great tool for me. I spent 2 years at School 53. Then from there, I went on to high school. I started off at Hutch Tech High School in commercial art and industrial design, and didn't fit with me for a while. So I transferred over to East High School, spent a little time there, and then transferred around again over to Lafayette High School. I think in going to those three high schools, I became well-rounded, met a lot of people, had a lot of different experiences in all of the high schools. And I think it all prepared me for Canisius College, and Canisius College then prepared me for Georgetown Law. But taken as a whole, and when I look back at the whole thing, I think it was my experience with the tutor that prepared me because I learned how to study, how to focus, and become disciplined.
I'm joined by Benny the Butcher.
This is D from the projects.
Rick G.
Dr. Kelly Lucci.
Hey, what's up, Mr. D. Wilson?
It's Michelle Biza.
Omni Star Muhammad.
TJ Iceberg.
This is how I came up.
This is how I came up.
And this is how I came up.
How you doing? My name is Sam Hill, host of How I Came Up. Do you have a success story that you would like to share with the world? If so, please go to ScoldWooTV.com and submit that story. And just maybe we'll allow you to share that story with the rest of the world.
I learned early how to get along with people, not just people of your color, but people of different colors. But also at the same time, I learned what I would accept from anybody, regardless of what color you were. I wasn't going to accept being treated differently by anyone. And that was instilled upon me with my mother many times when we were young. There's no one better than you, and no one is to treat you lesser than what you deserve. And I took that experience, and once I went to Canisius, you experienced the same things, because when I arrived at Canisius, there were probably a little over a dozen Black students out of the entire population of the school. And but the times were different. The times were that, and I don't know if it was spontaneous or just with us. I know that Martin Luther King was doing his thing, and Stokely Carmichael and Elders Cleaver and them. But we were doing something different, and we were caught up in the immediacy of what we were doing. And it didn't feel right just to have a dozen Black students there and nothing that related to us. So we got together as a group and formed a Canisius Afro Society. Actually, before the society was formed, a few of us got together and decided to protest the number of students and the lack of courses which focused on Black history and the lack of scholarship for Blacks, all those sorts of things. And we prepared an agenda for the president, and the president came and he agreed that there should be some changes. And I think it was because of the fire that was burning in the streets, and also the moment. The moment was very important then, that things were ready to change. And we did our little part to make the changes there. So as a result of our efforts, the school opened the doors to 30 students in that first year class. We started Black history courses. We started the Martin Luther King Scholarship Program, and we actually brought in a Black professor. But it seems as though the same things that we did back then are the same things that are needed now. They're just needed on a different level and a greater level. Well, I ended up at Georgetown Law in Washington, D.C. And it just was by coincidence. I was actually going to go to NYU, and the dean at NYU was going over to Georgetown. He asked me would I want to go to Georgetown with him, and I says, yeah. And I actually, I got a letter from the service saying that if I wasn't in school in 2 weeks, then it's either school or Vietnam. So that was an easy choice. Georgetown was a great experience because you got to meet a lot of the smarter students around the country there. And you got a chance to prepare and challenge yourself against those students. The times were almost the same as they were at Canisius. There was still very little respect for Black students. We had probably, there were 15 people in my section who were of color, and that was out of 150. But I worked hard, and I made friendships there, and those friendships actually led to positions in Washington. And I think it's the same. I think if you know how to relate to people, then good things come out of that.
LeRoi Johnson is the brother of one of the most famous international music superstars, but a Buffalo native, Rick James.
Rick and I had always been involved with each other and what he was doing with music. A lot of people just don't know that. I was behind a lot of things. That Rick was doing before he made it. And we were close as brothers. So I was always his biggest cheerleader. But at the time that Rick made it, I was married and very happily married. So I wasn't ready to give up the marriage for rock and roll. And then I tragically lost my wife, which made me rethink about everything. And that's the sole reason why I went with Rick, because I needed to get away from what I was doing. I needed a change from Washington. A lot of people do not understand how much work is entailed in working with a superstar. I had a staff of 70 people. That was 70 immediate people on the road. 6 bus loads, 6 tractor trailers, all kinds of half tracks, and 70 employees. And that was just on the road. Back in our office, we had an office in Buffalo, we had an office in Los Angeles. Our family worked in the office in Buffalo. We had staff working in Los Angeles. We had all kinds of different people working for us, booking agents, publishing people, and it was just a tremendous amount of work that you had to do. I was up basically from 7 or 8 in the morning to 3 in the morning, working. I mean, that was working over 18 hours a day, and then traveling at the same time from city to city, where sometimes you didn't know which city you were in. But I loved it. I loved it because you got a chance to see America, and you got a chance to see the world. But don't ever for one minute think that it's not hard work, and don't think that you have to be prepared for it, because you do have to be prepared. There's no room for mistakes. There's too much money, too many employees involved, and too many situations involved for you to come in there as an inexperienced person. And I was very experienced when I started working.
You grew up, went to the Buffalo Public Schools here, Canisius, and then you went to my hometown. You went to D.C., Georgetown, but for law school.
Yes.
Okay, well, what I do now, I'm an attorney, and basically I have a general practice, and it's a general practice, but with my principal focus is personal injury. I do a lot of entertainment because that's what I've done for many years. I think every last thing that I did, no matter whether the experience, I thought it was positive or negative, it was an experience that helped me go to the next level. In Washington, I did a lot of legislative work as an attorney for the city council. I did a lot of hearings with housing and federal labor relations work. And I think all of that helped to prepare me, in addition to working with minority business, helped me with working with my brother's company, which was Mary Jane Productions. And that helped me with what I'm doing now, because we were sued in almost every city by the best firms in the country. And I learned that you had to have good people around you, you had to delegate well, and you had to oversee. So that's similar to what I do now. I delegate a lot of the work, and I oversee the work because my vast experience can tell me whether this is good or whether this is bad. But right now, I'm practicing law. I enjoy doing the personal injury work. I enjoy consulting with the clients that I do in terms of entertainment. I do just a little bit of criminal work, and usually the work that I do outside of personal injury or entertainment is usually related to one of my clients that I already have, and that's basically because your clients want you, and they trust you, and that's very important in the practice of law.
Hello, friends from Art to International. We are here with our artist, LeRoi Johnson, who just drove from the U.S., from Buffalo, New York, to be here at Limitless Expressions in Studio Bowl Gallery. And I want to welcome you, LeRoi. How are you doing?
Thank you, Vivian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm actually an artist, and I've shown internationally for a number of years. I've been painting ever since, I started off drawing when I was young, and I was drawing when I was in the hospital back in those days. And I remember a gentleman gave me a sketchbook, and I started doing a lot of sketches in there, and that was the basis of establishing my style and my perspective. Once I got out of the hospital, once I got out of grammar school, I went to Hutch Tech for commercial art, and didn't think that I really was going to make a life out of that. I am a professional artist because I show, I exhibit, I sell. So that makes you a professional. I've shown all over the world. I've shown in South America, have from also in Asia, Africa, Europe, a number of cities in the United States. And this is something that I just finished this morning. So I thought I'd give you a glimpse of that. And this is 3, as a friend of mine, Trini women. And when I say Trini, it's Trinidadian. The image of women that, as I see it, it's actually the glorification of, and the beauty and the strength and power of Black women. And that's basically what I did. I do a lot of figurative, but I also do abstract and geometric figures. I do whatever's in my soul, whatever I feel for the moment. I don't try to paint a particular way, but everybody tells me that if they see one of my paintings, they know it's me. So that's me. There was a time when I was painting and Rick saw some of my work, and he said he did not like it, and I took it personally, whereas I shouldn't have, and I would never do that today, because that's, if you don't like it, that's fine. There are 6 billion other people out there who may like it or may not. But after he said that, a curator from one of the major museums, the Brooklyn Museum, as a matter of fact, came to my house and looked at my work and said the same piece that Rick said he didn't like, he wanted to purchase it for the museum. And I looked like, well, wait a minute, here's Rick saying this, and here's the curator from a major museum is saying about the same piece. So that actually got me to start again. And then Rick came and asked me, could he have one of my pieces? And I said, no, you can't. I'm not giving a piece to somebody who doesn't like my work. He said, when did I say that? I said, you said that back then. He said, I was joking with you. I said, well, you shouldn't say those things. So he ended up with a couple pieces of my work. That's the bottom line. But that's, I think I stopped for 10 years painting just because of that little incident. But now, if someone were to say that, I would just say, well, thank you for your opinion, and move on. There's nobody in this town or on this planet that knows more about my brother than I do. And I'd like to use that experience with somebody who has that experience in movie and film, who I think is going to be the next great producer. Well, I'm working on a movie with Addison Henderson and Trent Bowling. It's called Brother's Keeper, and it's about my story along with my brother's story, about how the two of us, growing up in the projects and having different aspirations, but at the same time arriving at the same place. Rick perfecting his skill as an entertainer, me perfecting my skill as an attorney. And we both had a need for each other, came together. And in the early 80s, we dominated R&B. And actually, we took R&B to a whole nother level. It was what they call punk funk, which was a form of R&B and rock. Rick was the person, but I was fortunate enough to have the skills that he needed to assist him on the business and administrative side. And Rick could do anything on the musical side that he wanted, but he needed somebody that he could trust on both the business side and administrative side. My name is LeRoi Johnson, and this is how I came up.
What is your name and where are you from? Hello, my name is Sam Hill. I'm the host of How I Came Up. How I Came Up is a platform for our entrepreneurs and professionals to share their successes and their struggles. And hopefully, they'll give us some tips to success. Now let's get to it.